Okay guys, I'm gonna make a very controversial video here. And it's not a related April Fool's joke. This is my honest opinion. I'm going to talk about the movie Bridesmaids and how much I hate it with every fiber of my being. I despise this film. And I always get this question every time I bring that up. Everyone always asks me why. It's funny. And I noticed something. No one I've talked to, not one person, can ever explain to me why this movie is funny. They just say, you have to like it, it's funny. I'm like, yeah, explain? And I asked this guy on Movie Fan Central, I asked him, why is this movie funny? And he gave me this very long answer. He says, well, it's realistic to how women perceive marriages. It's like a true women really go through. Like when they're like their best friends get married, they get left out. They would like go around and sleep with everyone. They would like screw everything up. That's what they would do. And I'm like, okay, you use the word true to life a lot. Let me tell you something, pal. True life isn't funny. Like even when like if you're making like a comedy based on a true story, you have to take a lot of creative license there. True life isn't funny. And maybe that was the deal with Bridesmaids. Maybe it was trying to be such a realistic movie, but true life isn't funny. And that's not the only reason I have this movie. I'm going to go into great detail on how I like this movie, and there are going to be huge spoilers for this movie. So if you haven't seen it and still wish to, A, God help you, B, turn back now. So, movie starts. I'm in the theater. I paid money to see this. Yeah, that's right. Because I just heard so many amazing things about it. I'm like, well, it must be good. It's got Kristen Wiig, and I wanted to see it before it came out. I thought, well, it's got a good cast, and could be a sleeper hit. So I saw it after all the reviews were out, and first thing in the movie is this, like, filthy sex scene between Kristen Wiig and John Hamm. And I'm just like, what? Really? This is how you're opening your movie? I mean, to be fair, it is rated R, but still, and during that scene, I wasn't laughing at all. I was like, are they making any jokes here? I don't think they are. I think they're just showing just filthy sex. And that was probably my first clue that this movie was gonna be just so unfunny across the board. Cause okay, so there's Annie, played by Kristen Wiig. I should probably go through this movie in detail. Best friend Lillian, played by Maya Rudolph. She gets engaged, picks Annie to be the maid of honor. They go to this party and they meet all the other bridesmaids. I don't remember all their names. I've only seen this movie once for obvious reasons. There's like Erin from The Office, who's like this very, very PC, very clean cut stuff. The girl, like she's like very by the book. There's this blonde woman who, like, her kids are, like, total brats. And, like, her kids are just nasty, horrible, rotten people. There's, Melissa McCarthy, who is easily my favorite character, because she's the only one who's likable. Like, she does get one or two good jokes in there. Even though there is that disturbing scene at the end of the movie where she's having sex with this guy with a, like, yard-long sandwich between them. And before you ask, no, I don't think she deserved an Oscar nomination. I think more power to the Academy for nominating people from comedies. Like, they did it with Robert Downey Jr. on Tropic Thunder and everything, but that was very cool. Melissa McCarthy, I just don't think deserved it. Robert Downey Jr. was unrecognizable. Melissa McCarthy, I think, was just a raunchier version of Melissa McCarthy. So there's them, and there's oh god, I think there's one more. No, there's not. Oh wait, there's Helen, played by Rose Byrne, who is, they set her up, like, that she and Lillian just met, and they're already, like, super comfortable with each other. They're, like, best friends. Like, she claims to be the bride's best friend, which obviously makes Annie upset. I mean, who wouldn't get upset at that? And at the party, there's a scene that Annie gives a toast. It's a nice toast. Then Helen comes up and she gives another toast, and it's 10 times more beautiful. So Annie says, okay, can I just say something else? I just want to top this for a second. And she says something that's not funny. And Then Helen comes up and says, hey, I'm guessing someone else, and she says something that's not funny. Then Annie does it again. Then Helen does it again. Then Annie, then Helen, then Annie, Helen, Annie, Helen. And this goes on for at least half an hour. And it got to the point where every time one of them stepped on the podium, I just groaned. I was just like, oh no, not again. Can we please see something else? And it wasn't funny to me. Nothing they said, like I said, nothing they said in any of their speeches they didn't go for any jokes. They just tried to top each other. And the whole joke is based on the idea that they're trying to top each other and keep going back up. That was funny. That merited a tiny chuckle the first 2 times they did that. But they keep playing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So what little luster there is in the joke is gone. And what else is it? Like, Helen is this rotten woman, the most contemptible character I've ever seen in any movie. And I'm sure a lot of you who've seen the movie will probably agree with me now. You're probably saying, oh, she's supposed to be that way. Yes, she is. Because she keeps screwing things up for Annie. Annie is intimidated by this woman because she's supposedly his best friend. And she keeps screwing things up. She keeps sabotaging her. This thing there on the plane. And Annie gets a little airsick. So Helen gives her these pills to make her act crazy. And she ends up acting crazy, disrupting the flight. And no one, not a soul, thinks to trace it back to the origin of the problem. Maybe she's acting crazy to the pills Helen gave her. There's one scene where Lillian turns to Helen, what did you give her? Cut to the next scene, and it's never mentioned again. The only time in the whole movie anyone will ever think that Helen is behind it. And plain comedy isn't funny, people. It's okay to make movies like Flight Plan or Red Eye or thriller or horror movies on planes after 9/11, because that fear of flying that arose, and the fear of planes in airports and stuff that arose from that event, it helps the movie. And even like when they're making Flight Plan, they had to change the script to like accommodate what would happen post 9/11 if like a child disappeared on a plane. And they actually changed some stuff. They actually added a few lines, and they made it very realistic to how this would work, the story would work post 9/11. It's okay to make movies like that, because movies after 9/11, people are going to watch these horror thrillers about planes and say that's more scary because it could really happen. Joking about terrorists on planes, like in Bridesmaids or Due Date or all these other bad movies, is not funny. But anyway, back to the plane scene. So Annie, like I said, Helen gives Annie these pills and makes her go nuts. No one ever blames Helen for this. And they end up having Annie acts crazy. And they think she's a terrorist. Again, not funny. So they end up prematurely landing the plane. And they get, I believe they get arrested for this. But then cut to, they're back home and they're just chilling up, never mentioned again, totally pointless. And there's a scene at the bridal shower. It's like the day before the wedding. And Annie gives Lillian a very beautiful gift. Once again, Helen upstages her, which you've come to expect. And in fact, when I saw that scene in the theater, the whole audience just went, because she gives her plane tickets to Paris, which A was Annie's idea, and B, it does upstage her. And this is the point where Annie snaps. She just goes nuts. She starts screaming and cussing, and she yells at Helen, she singles out Lillian for not being a good friend. She breaks stuff, she storms out in a huff, and she goes to her, I forgot to mention, Officer Rhodes, who is this British cop guy who's been her friend, potential boyfriend, confidant for the whole movie. And she says, well, look, Helen did this. Then he stops her dead and says, no, wrong. This is not Helen's fault. This is your fault. You screwed this up. This is your fault. You've been intentionally sabotaging this entire wedding just for your purposes. And I'm like, what? What? Seriously? Keep in mind, it felt like the longest movie in the world, so I don't know how long it was. It felt like the last 2 hours of the movie have been spent on Annie's side. We've been villainizing Helen. We've been seeing Helen do these horrible things. We've been behind Annie. We've been feeling really sorry for this girl. And now, just like that, you're going to say, nope, she's a bad guy now. You have to hate her. Because Rhodes is supposed to be right here. We're supposed to side with him. We're supposed to hate Annie. And it's Annie, played by Kristen Wiig, one of the funniest, most likable people on the planet. She cannot be the bad guy. And you build it up. You build all this up, making Helen the worst possible person. And then you just switch it around. You're supposed to... In fact, there's a scene after this where Helen goes to Annie's apartment because Lillian is gone. She goes and basically begs for help. And naturally, first thing Annie does, slam the door in her face. Thank you, yes. That's what any person would do. And then, like, not even a second later, she was like, okay, I forgive you, let's move on. And by the end of the movie, they're on good terms. People don't do that. Human beings do not behave like that. We hold grudges. We hate people. We are just... When someone screws us over, that we screw them back. And like, after Rhodes says to Annie, this is your fault, we have to hate you now. That's, the movie says to her, we have to hate this character now. In the next 5 minutes of screen time, she's a victim of a hit and run, she gets fired from her job, unceremoniously kicked out of her apartment, and is forced to move in with her mother. All that in 5 minutes after, and during this time, we are supposed to hate this woman. There's a scene where she's in her mom's apartment, watching, Castaway. And she's watching, crying at the scene where he loses Wilson in the middle of the ocean. She's like, oh, Wilson, it's so sad! And we're still supposed to hate this woman! How can you hate this person? I'm so emotional about this movie because this is such crap. People don't do this. If I'm going on a tirade, I'm sorry. I just hate this movie so much. And again, none of this is funny. This isn't funny. And you cannot do this in any movie. You can't take a character, you can't build up a character as a likable person, as a good guy, as someone you're meant to root for, and create this ultimate villain. And then just flip the tables. Like, I can only think of one movie that's Star Wars. But even then, Darth Vader was always the good guy. Even when he, killed all those people, even when he killed Obi-Wan, when he killed everyone, he was always going to kill the Emperor in the end and bring balance to the Force. George Lucas himself has confirmed this. And even when you go back in 1, 2, and 3, when you see him as Anakin and you see him become Darth Vader, he does it for good reasons. It's just to keep for his wife. Annie did nothing to deserve being villainized. All she did was be the victim. All she did was get attacked by Helen. And how can you people like this? I'm gonna be a jerk here and say I can't possibly see why anyone would like this movie. This is bad, okay? And like I said, I think I can get away with this. Emphasis on think. Because no one can explain why this movie is funny to me. No one can say, honestly, and people say it's good. And I've seen on IMDb lots of negative reviews of this movie. And my sister saw this movie. After all my warnings, it's a horrible film, why would you want to watch it? And she saw it and she liked it. And she says to me, you know what? It's a female hangover. Well, I haven't seen The Hangover. She has, I haven't. Make of that what you will. To be fair, she has seen it on television with every other cuss word censored. But if The Hangover is this insulting and this unfunny, then something is wrong with the world. Bridesmaids, I'm so furious that it got a Best Screenplay nomination for the Oscars. Because, like I said, this is a screenplay that took made a likable character, made this horrible villain, and just flipped the tables. You can't do that in a movie and get all this praise. And they did. Not since House of Night have I hated anything this much. Bridesmaids is... it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. New Moon still has that honor. But I'm not gonna say it's scum of the earth, because there are worse things out there. But it's just, it's insulting. It's almost, it's probably more insulting than Thor. When I reviewed Thor, I said that movie was insulting because it just dragged on too long. And Bridesmaids just was... I don't have any words of this. So leave in the comments why you like this movie. Explain. Don't just say it's funny, because it's not. True Life isn't funny. Nothing in this movie is funny. Explain to me, give me an honest and true opinion of why you like this movie. Don't just say it's funny. You have to like this. You're a bad person for not like this. You deserve to be murdered. And I'm holding a grudge for that, because that's what people do. People don't just forgive people that like that. I hate this movie so much. So hate me all you want. I deserve it, because I truly cannot see the light with this movie. I can't give it the time of day. I was this close to walking out and asking for my money back. And I've never done that in a movie. The only movie I've ever considered that in was Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. And I've never stopped. I sat through this movie. That should tell you something about me. But, just... I need a drink.